Lake County in the room? Okay. You're Salt Lake County? Okay, good. So I have separate packets for you guys because it has to be by county.
Marilyn, do you live in Utah County?
I signed it Eagle.
Oh, you already signed, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
For
keep
some
in
reason
mind,
I
you
thought
can
you were
only
Salt
sign
Lake.
once. So if you did sign at Eagle form, you can't sign again. Okay, yeah. Okay, and you're Salt Lake County. So I will pass around this ballot. There's 2 signatures per page, okay, this initiative. And it's going to ask you for your voter, you print your voter name, okay? Then you sign it, you do your signature, today's date, you put your address, your email, okay, because they're going to send you an email to let you know that you can take your name off the list, And then I just did my age. It helps with verifying. There could be someone else with your same voting name, which is highly unlikely, but if it did, then it's a way for them to identify that you're this particular voter and not this other one, okay? I didn't like to put my birth date. I'm just someone that just doesn't put that out there, so I just put my age, okay? So I have the one for Utah County. I'll start passing that. And then if there's no other questions, we'll just start floating that around and having you sign it, and that's all we need. And you've got the information to look up the bill later or whatever, but anyway, go ahead.
It's a different subject. What do you know about Allie Isom? She's running against Mike Lee. She came around to our neighborhood.
Well, she was on a video that's been scrubbed that attacked President Trump and was basically campaigning for Joe Biden.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Because
So she's a Republican.
97% the same way of Mike Lee.
She's never voted.
Yeah, she said she would.
She's never.
Yeah, she said she would. So I'm just like,
Oh, please, I would?
What does that mean?
That's ridiculous. She's trying to create the idea she's voting.
She's never voted?
Allie Isom she's a never-Trumper. She was so enraged when Trump was elected that she actually removed her name from the Republican Party. So she left the Republican Party.
oh, interesting.
Yeah. But she's running
she's
as a
back now.
Republican. Oh, yeah, she's back.
Don't you remember Cook?
So she's
Democrat,
very
Republican, and
liberal.
Independent?
Okay. She would no further vote the same as Mike Lee as Flight of the
Lawler.
Moon.
Yeah.
She's,
Good to know.
and it's interesting because she would be one of those that would be openly. It's funny now. She's taking the approach of like, hey, I'd vote like Mike Lee. See, Becky Edwards, the other liberal running, is like totally attacking Mike Lee. Davis County,
Is that
Yeah.
North Salt Lake?
North Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Do you know her?
The doctor's wife?
Mm-hmm. So she's running against Mike Lee.
And she's liberal.
Oh,
Yeah.
extremely. Yeah. Now she's got a voting record, you guys. You can pull up her voting record on the Utah Grassroots, and she votes with the Dems like her whole career up at the legislature. Totally liberal. Okay, and so they're
My sister's just good friends with her.
Who is?
My sister.
Oh yeah, yeah, and she's a nice lady, sweet gal, all of that. Horrible with principles and liberty. Yeah, just horrible. So.
That's where you
Anyway.
have to look at all the R's and just know they're camouflaging over a D. Right?
Well, they
You
know they
realize-
can't get elected.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they can't
Right.
get
See,
it.
it's
So-
good that Helena brought this up because it's important to know these people, and if you don't, just ask me because I know almost everybody.
That's why I did, because I read her bio and I thought, there's nothing glaring
She
here.
used to
But
work
why
for-
would I want to vote for
Well,
She used to work for Governor Herbert.
That was a clue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That should help you. Like, this might be someone who is a little bit more unprincipled and liberal, because Governor Herbert was unprincipled and
Yeah.
liberal, in his policies.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she totally unregistered from the Republican Party in protest of President Trump. So there's somebody right there. And President Trump was actually trying to do the best he could to protect our liberty.
oh, yeah.
Okay, so that tells you everything you need to know about her. Okay, you don't even have to waste any brain cells on it. But you listen, you hear, but that's how you vet people. You ask, do you know her? What do you know about her? But I loved how she said, I would.
Yeah, she is.
I would.
That's hysterical. I would have
Yeah.
loved to have been in the room when she said that one.
Well,
Oh, my
I
goodness.
wouldn't sign her paper to get her on the ballot.
Oh, good. Oh, she was gathering signatures.
She was gathering signatures.
And that should be your first clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Becky's gathering signatures, and I texted her back and said, Becky, I won't be voting for you because I believe in the caucus system. And she said, so she texted back and said, oh, I believe in the caucus system, I'll be at the convention. So I thought, well, there's
Good. We'll be happy to see you there. Yeah.
Crazy,
Anyway.
crazy.
Okay, any other questions about the initiative? And so you just need to make sure that you use the name that you're registered to vote with.
Well, are we signing that here or what? I
Yep.
guess I'm confused.
Got it right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just have to give her a different one and then we'll start passing this other ballot.
Okay, and then Pam, Openshaw, I'm so excited to have Pam. She wrote this book, The Promises of the Constitution, and what they are is they're vignettes of just a short little commentary on all the different things of our Constitution. And we're so excited. She's got another book in her. She wants to do another book, but she needs some help. So we're going to let Pam. Do you need to sit down here and I can move? Are you? Okay. So we're going to let Pam tell you what she needs from us.
Hi, ladies. I haven't been here for a while, but I've missed this group. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate Colette's introduction. So I wrote Promises of the Constitution some years back, and then we wrote a workbook and a parent-teacher volume with the answers in it. And we've marketed that across the country, and it's been an exciting experience, and we've learned a lot of things, and created some DVDs. And then I lost my vision. I can kind of see that there are people out there. But I'm very limited on my vision. I'm no longer able to read anything. Well, that's not true, because if you buy the sour cream at Costco with the letters that say sour cream on it this big and they're black on a white container, if I really strain, I can see those. So it's not like I can't read anything, but I'm trying now to write a new book. I have it in me. I've learned so many things. I want to share those things, and I'm unable to do that because I cannot read to gain the materials. And so I have a lot in my brain, of course, that I've studied over the last 12 or 13 years. And I can pull part of that out, but it's I have additional research that needs to be done. One of the main things that I've been focusing on, well, let me give you a little bit more information on that. So Bob and I traveled the country for several years, marketing our books and speaking at homeschool conventions and such places as that. We had a lot of really positive experiences with that. But I fell apart. It was just, we were pushing too hard, we were traveling too much. We did 25,000 miles one summer, and my body just couldn't take that. And so I fell apart. I thought it was fibromyalgia, but since then I've learned that I have some serious heart problems that I didn't know I had, so I'm not quite sure what the problem was there. But anyway, I prayed about it extensively, and the Spirit told me it was time to rest, so I did. But in the process, I've continued. You just can't lay on the bed, sorry, for 4 years. And so I've been doing a lot of audiobooks and the like, because that's how I can process information now. And so I've been gaining more information, plus I've been learning new things, and inside of me has been forming this desire that I need to put that in writing. But I felt like I couldn't do that because I couldn't see. Because the whole time that I've been going through this 6 or 7 year process now, my vision has just collapsed on me. And so I was really feeling very hopeless about the situation. I was fighting depression. I was laying on my bed every day listening to whatever library book I could get on an audio, and it just was a really negative experience. And so back in October, Bob and I talked about it, and I said, do you know what? I think I need to write this book no matter what kind of physical limitations I have connected to this. And so we talked about how we could do that. this is what I need to write about, sisters. I have learned through all the work that I've done and the research I've done that God is very involved in government, and most people are simply not aware of that. Bob and I, as we traveled for those years teaching at homeschool conventions and such, we were teaching all over the place. I would present that information to people that God was involved in government, and we were going to Christian organizations. If you're going to teach the Constitution and you need to start someplace, you start with Christian organizations. And so I would stand and give presentations at these groups, and people were really drawn to this concept. They hadn't realized how very involved God is with government. Now, we understand that as members of the church because we have Doctrine and Covenants sections 98, 101, 109, and 134, where we talk about the Constitution. And we have statements from the Brethren, such as in 1976, we had the bicentennial statement from the Brethren on the value of the Constitution and how we needed to study that and make it part of our lives. We've had J. Reuben Clark Jr., we've had David O. McKay, we've had Ezra Taft Benson, we've had all of these marvelous church leaders that have taught us that. But out there in the Christian world, the rest of the Christian world, they really don't have that information. And so when I would stand and give them that information, I could just see them. I could see them come alive, and I could see that it meant something to them. And I began realizing we need to be talking about this. We need to share this. So as I spent all these 3 or 4 years laying on the bed reading books, I could feel it festering inside of me. I need to write. I need to share the things that I've learned. And so in October, when Bob and I talked about this, we said, let's try to do it. So I want to tell you what it's like to try and write a book when you can't read any information. Just ponder that. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And so, but we talked about it, we prayed about it, we have felt real inspiration connected to going forward with this, just the same as we did when I wrote the first book. And this is what Heavenly Father has done for us so far, and it's been wonderful. We were able to find an editor that would work with me, understood my limitations, and is willing to fill in the gaps. We have found a researcher that does the really hard stuff for us. We found individuals to help us with online information. And so with that information, I started forward, okay, how do I do this? And we just ran into one wall after another. I could feel Satan working on this. I can't tell you how I have felt the adversary trying to stop this process. The crunch was, how do I take what's in my brain and get it onto paper? Because I can't type, because I can't see anything that I'm doing. I can't see where my hands are going on the keyboard. I can't do any of that. And then I can't read what I've written, even if I could type it out. And so we tried a recording system. We tried a couple of other options that we could see, and none of it worked. And then the idea came, why don't I just hire some young women who will take dictation for me so that I can speak what it is I already know, and I can dictate it, and these individuals can type it for me. And so that's where we are right now. Our granddaughter, who is 22, a returned missionary and a student up at Utah State, is working for me now, and a young girl, 17 years old, homeschooled, high school senior, living in California, really fine young women. These two are taking the information as I can pull it out of my brain and put it on paper. So we've formatted the whole book, and the purpose of the book is to teach that God cares about government. And so I won't go through with you the sections and all of the things that we're doing in that book, but I'm excited about it, and I feel like the things that we're doing have worth. And I really want to bring this book forward, and so does Bob. So Bob is working very much with me on this process. So when I have ideas in my brain that need to go into a vignette, I can't keep all of that straight and keep all that format straight. So I tell Bob what I want to do, and he writes out the notes, and then we organize the notes, and then I speak it to one of our 2 typists over the phone, and she types out the information, and we perfect it. Now, I write, as Colette said, in short vignettes. I don't know how to write anything longer than 550 words, because that's what I've done now for the last 12 years, is write in 550 word increments, 1 page and a half. And that's one of the things that's been so appealing about the books that I've written, is that people love that format. So I'm all formatted to do that. It was Mark Twain who said, I would have written a shorter letter if I had had the time. It takes a long time to shorten a concept, and that's what I do. I work really hard with these typists. We type out all the information, and then we go back, we adjust, we arrange, we condense, we put all the information in there, but it's all in around 550 words. So, that was a little bit of a tangent. So I've identified all the things that I want to put into the book, and some of the topics need to be researched. And some of the individuals that are going to go into the book need to be researched. To give you just a little bit of information about it, we're doing some foundation information, and then we're talking about God and his involvement in government in several different sections. And then we're addressing the concept that government is power, and that power has a tendency to work against what power can be used positively and negatively, and we are dealing with it in both cases during the book. And then we are concluding the book at the end with 3 different sections where we're talking about individuals and the impact that they have had on moving us either forward or backward in this process. So the first of those 3 sections about individuals will be those who have destroyed liberty. And we are talking about people like the Illuminati, Karl Marx, John Dewey, a bunch of individuals like that. Then the next section is those who have built liberty. And in that section we're going to be talking about John Winthrop, we're talking about C.S. Lewis, individuals like that. And then in the final section we are talking about the common people. I've learned about 2 different books that, and Bob and I have obtained them, where we have just the stories of individuals through the Revolutionary War and such times as that, and what they did to build freedom, and then we're going to pull in modern day examples of that, and that will constitute that last section. That was all introduction, ladies, because here's where I am. I can't research the information. I know what the Spirit's directing me to do, and I know what the finished book needs to be like. And I know that once I have the information, I can process it into the 550 word increments. But what I cannot do is get the information, because I can't find enough books to read and enough sources to go to and enough assistance. So as I was really struggling for information on how to handle that situation, the prompting that came to me was that I was to ask for help. And one of the very first suggestions that came to my mind was to come to this group. So here's why I'm here today, ladies. I have a list of, so when we're done with this book, we're assuming we're going to have about 100 vignettes. So the book will end up being about 250 to 300 pages when we're done. The process, the topics are still evolving. We're learning how to put topics together and where we need to put in another vignette, but we're really assuming we're going to have about 100 vignettes. And so far we've been able to do 12 of them. And I believe that I can pull out the information to do most of the rest, but I have 22 topics that I need help researching. And I'm here today to ask if any of you would be willing to help me with that project. This is what I need. I would like to ask for individuals that would be willing to research one topic for me. Now, I'm only going to write 550 words on this topic. So I don't need masses of information, and I don't need weeks worth of research. I only need individuals that will read a book that can give you a good conservative and Christian orientation to the topic, and then give me the information so that you become my resource to give me what I need in order to write my 550 word vignette. Does that sound like something that some of you would be willing to do to help me?
Do you have the
I
topic?
want you to think about it.
She'll give you the book, the title
I'll
of the
get you the book, or if you want to check it out from the library, I will purchase you the book. I'll do whatever we need to do to get you your resource. And then I'm simply asking that you would read that book. If you want to do a little bit more online or a little bit more past that, you're welcome to do that. But I really am just asking for individuals who will read the book,
What book is it?
whatever the topic is. I have 22 topics here that I need help with researching. And I would need you to gather that information, put it, if possible, into a written form, like in a Word document. Not something that's going to be submitted to anyone, just something that gives me the information so that I can then process it with the typist and put it into the 550 words. That's what I'm asking for.
What's the time frame on it?
That's the interesting part, because if you, all of you do this in the next 3 weeks, I will drown of all the
So you need
information.
some time.
So I am not looking for anything that has to be done by a week from Thursday. I'm looking for individuals that would be willing to accept that responsibility. I'll work with you to help you find the source, to get the books ordered, to do whatever we need to do, and then you read it at your leisure. And when you have the information, if it's not convenient to you to type it out, I'll take it on the phone. You can speak it to me, and Bob will write the notes as we go. Or you can speak it to me when I have one of my typists on the line, and she can take the notes. I'm just asking you, please, gather the information for me, and then get me the information.
And you could even, I mean, couldn't you not have, you guys could record it into your phone memo and send it to her, too.
Say that a little louder. Let
Or
me
you
tell
could
you.
record it. You could record that information instead of doing it on the phone and
Yes, we could.
record it.
And just
send it
email
out.
it to Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can go however you want to get me the information. We'll find a way to do it. And our granddaughter is good about knowing what to do with things. We have another grandson that will help us with that. I just need, this is what I'm actually doing. I am asking to borrow your eyeballs. And that is literally what I'm asking for. You can read. Can't all of you see to read? I just can't do that anymore. I'm just asking for somebody who can read the information and then give it to me.
Will you
So-
give out his email so people online can hear?
Okay, let me just interrupt to tell you one quick thing. Hold that topic. Let me tell you why I'm losing my vision. And I probably have never told any of you this, but I was struck by lightning when I was 4.
Wow.
We were living in a small community of Silver City, New Mexico, and my parents had built a new house. This was a 1950s house, so you know how little they are, but they're 3 little bedrooms and 1 bath. And it was built on the side of a hill. And it was a 3-block long hill going down like this. And we were 1 block from the bottom, and the 2 blocks above that were totally unoccupied, and there was a road that went up there. And my older brother Barry, who's 2 years older than I am, we had one of those red flyer wagons, you know. I was born in 1943, which means I'm now 78. I'll just save you the math on that. And we had one of those red flyer wagons, Barry and I did, and during the summer we would pull it up to the top of the hill, and then we'd climb in it, and then we'd ride it clear down the 2 blocks till we got to our house. It was a really fun thing to do, although it was dangerous, and I'm surprised my mother let us do that. So we went out one day, and we were pulling the wagon up the hill, and we were along this road. Along one side of the road there were power lines, and along the other side of the road there was a row of tall trees. So there is no way under heaven a lightning strike should have ever come down between those two to hit the head of a 4-year-old child who was pulling a wagon. But that's what happened. It was one little cloud with a little bit of gray on the bottom, and it let out one lightning streak. And it came down through that, and it hit me right here on the left side of my head.
Wow.
The
Lucky to
force
be
of the
alive.
lightning was so powerful that when help got to me, my knees were twisted around my neck. And my mother said that when she saw me, she knew that I would have to be dead because a human body couldn't be put into that form. And the lightning, as it went through my body, melted the metal handle, and those metal handles are thick, melted it to the shape of my hand, The only reason I survived was because there were rubber wheels on the wagon and that grounded the electricity. But where the 4 wheels had been on the ground, it had created cracks in the ground in the shape of lightning strikes. So they took me to the hospital and all kinds of things after that. But what we walked away from that situation was that it had mainly destroyed my hearing. So my hearing was almost gone in the left ear, and it was damaged in the right ear. However, when you're a 4-year-old and something like that happens to you, you just adapt, and I did. So I started sight reading, and that's how I hear people, at least for most of the years of my life, was by sight reading, but now I can't see. So you just made a comment to me, and you've repeated it twice, that I still haven't heard you. Now, I gave you that explanation so you would know that I am turning into Helen Keller as this thing is going along.
Oh.
So you're going to have to talk out. Would you repeat that comment again?
Which person? Was that Nancy?
Well, I was just saying if Bob would give his email.
Oh, yeah, we can give you all that information. In fact, we have 2 papers with us today. I've given you the instructions on what to do.
I emailed them already to everybody.
Oh, bless you.
So you've
Yeah.
got them on your emails at home
This-
or on your phones.
You are so competent. I don't understand how you keep up with it. Anyway, so the instructions are all printed, and on that information is our contact information, so you can reach us easily. And there's a list on that handout, and we have paper copies of it if you'd also like a paper copy. But we have a list of the 22 topics. There actually are 22 research that would be assignments. There are 11 topics that need to be addressed, and there are 11 individuals that need to be addressed. And so you could literally pick any one of those you want, although I don't need 2 people on any one topic. I only need 1 person on each topic. So if you would look at that information and then contact me. I have books on some of the topics, and I would be willing to loan my books. But if you would like to find your own book, or if you would like me to find you the book, or whatever you need to do, just let me know. And as I said, we will purchase you the book. You may keep the book. I just need the information.
So this is, I see here, little boxes, a bunch of titles, involvement of media and public education.
Yeah.
Those are all the books. Anglo-Saxon law.
Those are the topics.
Those are the topics.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I would just like to have you talk with me, or call us on the phone, or
Okay.
whatever you would like to do. You're going to be giving a presentation here shortly, right?
Yeah, but it'll be very short.
Oh, okay.
We're fine.
Well, do you mind if we just stay and I'd love to listen to your presentation.
Yeah, because we've got about 30 minutes, and I was just going to talk about the 20 powers. We'll probably get through maybe a half dozen.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, thank you, ladies. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to be here, and I appreciate your support and listening.
great. And your phone number, is it? Okay, here it is. It's at the bottom. It's in the email. So
Yeah.
you all have access to her name and number. So Kris is going to, are you through doing what you're doing? Or
This is just being passed around. I do
Okay.
want to make one comment about mail-in ballots, is that if you do need an absentee ballot, which has always been there, you can get your ballot sent to you in the mail. If you
So
follow
that's the absentee ballots are okay.
absentee ballots are fine, because you have to show identification, you have to show
Right.
who you are, that you're at this address, and you're requesting it. That's still going to be.
Because I don't mind the absentee ballot. The only thing I didn't like about it is they're counted after the fact.
The absentee ballot only happens each election. You have to sign up for it each election.
Oh.
It's not ongoing. So it's for, like, you're called out of town on work, and it's like, okay, I'm gone for, or I'm traveling. I went with Kris to Egypt, and I can't be there for election day or whatever. You can get an absentee ballot. That's what they send the military, you know? And so that's still going to be available. It's just being forced by the government to have your ballot sent to you in the mail. And that's your only option. If they get 5,000 people to rescind the ballot and not have it sent to them, they have to offer a voting precinct. So that's why you want to be, and that's in state law. they will open up a voting precinct for you, so it.
Like at the elementary school.
Wherever,
Where?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I was just gonna say, Pam has some books over here on the promise of the Constitution with the little vignettes, so they're great to share with the child or anybody that just wants to know the information. And
We
also,
have a lot of new sisters. They're
like a
really
workbook.
good.
They're fantastic to have for
They
family.
are.
And
And how
how
much-
is the Constitution in 5 minutes a day with family, grandkids?
Seriously, they're fantastic. It's a page and a half.
And so great early morning study or with your scriptures.
There's something I forgot to say.
Yeah.
I started telling you about the lightning strike, but I never told you what that meant.
Oh,
What I've learned since then, and I've had to be taught this by the Spirit because no doctor could ever teach it to me, is that lightning strike also affected the linings of my eyes so that they are not able to drain the fluid. But I have been so blessed by the Lord that I've been able to see, even though I required some pretty strong glasses throughout my life. But it was that lightning strike that has also taken away my vision.
wow.
So I'm working with both of those problems, and they're all coming from that lightning strike. But, you know, if I could just add this, and the topic, I want to tell you how benevolent God is, that he can, that a 4-year-old child can go through that experience and then go on and live a normal life after that, and bring a family into the world and live a normal life. What a wonderful God we have.
Oh, yeah. I want to tell you a little side of that, because when I was in Peru, we were dealing with that. He was explaining there's different levels of shaman. One to, like, for your food, another one to cast out evil spirits, another one tradition. But the highest shaman, what they call him, the alto, I can't remember the name of the shaman, had to be a person that had been struck by lightning and lived.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Lightning only strikes once, so I stay close to her.
Yeah. But the concept is that light is part of God. Light. So you were, because most people will die, but if you lived, you were supposed to live to bring forth more light.
How cool is
And
that?
that's what you have done.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I feel good about myself today.
All right, so
how
finish
how
showing
much are
these.
your books, just so the girls know if they want to come over and pick them up? Pam, how much are your books?
How much is it? 25?
For the one each, or what? What do you have?
25 for each book.
25
Okay.
for each book?
Yeah, that's lower than.
Well,
Okay, we're gonna do it.
Well, I tell you, the thing that's beautiful
and you can
about,
do it promisesoftheconstitution.com, where you can go and get them direct.
Yeah, you'll learn about her 50th wedding anniversary and all kinds of stuff.
I opened this up, it's the House of Representatives. Last week I taught about the House of Representatives. And look how, how easy is that to read? To not only yourself, but your family. It's the way to teach your family all about the Constitution in easy peasy way of doing things. So I'm telling you, it's a great book. I've used it in a lot of our teachings here in the 5,000-year leap and the making of America. It's just so beautiful. It really is. And Pam has just made it so easy to understand. So I think I paid more. I think they were 30 or so before. So if you can get it for 25, that's a great deal. But you need that in your arsenal of learning. So it's very, very important to have. And we're so glad that Pam is doing this. So if anybody can help, this is great. All right. Last week we talked about the House of Representatives and the Congress, the umbrella of the Congress. We have the Senate and we have the House of Representatives, Congress. All right. So this week we'll have just a little bit of time, but the powers that the Congress has. And how many powers, do you remember what I said?
What page are we on?
20?
Well, my book's an old one.
So is mine.
Page 5.
Book 2.
Book 2, and my book's real old. I know there's been some reprintings, but it's the 20 enumerated powers that Congress has, and that's it. And this is like what Kris is teaching us here today is how they can take the power structure and just create more and more and more rules if we allow them to do that. but they only constitutionally have 20 powers. And power 1 was the power to tax, okay? So up till 1913 or 14, I don't remember which year it was. Can you imagine living in a day when you never had income tax, personal income tax? And that changed under Woodrow Wilson. The way that the federal government was ever to get money was to be able to lay they would look at the expenditure and they'd say, okay, we have this many states, so if you divide it out, each state is responsible for so much to pay for that expenditure, okay? And then the states would then, remember we talked about legislature, the states would therefore go to and see how many households there are, and they would tax the people to help pay our federal government bill. Well, now we know that's gone awry. And they're just not only printing money, but they're spending money just willy-nilly. And so in the Constitution it says, do you remember I showed you the little preamble and for the general defense and for the welfare? Well, for the general welfare of the United States was the power to tax. They could do a tax if it was needed, but not a personal income tax. Now, each and every one of us have personal income tax, and that all went away with that election. So, the Congress can raise revenue for the defense, and that is in the event of high risk. So, if, we had the 9/11, and so they voted to go to war, and that had to be paid for somehow. And so, probably most of that money was printed. Okay, so letter B under this, if you have your books, in connection with the taxing power, the clause states that the revenues can only be extended for the general welfare of the whole nation as it carries out the list of duties set forth. These funds are not to be spent for individuals, special groups, or particular geographical regions. This clause was designed by the founders to be a limitation on the taxing power of Congress. Have we seen that change?
No.
Is that being facetious?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we not? I mean, every time you see a bill come across anymore, is it not for special groups? I mean, there's so much corruption that has happened. And Alexander Hamilton became the Secretary of the Treasury under Washington, and he argued that this clause was a general grant of power. And the government was supposed to be a limited government, and it wasn't supposed to be, they have really changed the words and taken general to mean now they can just expand it to everything, because it's the whole big family, and now we can spend willy-nilly, and it's ridiculous.
Colette,
Yes.
can you tell us more where you are?
I was at letter B.
No, what page?
Oh, well, my pages are different. I'm under the 20 powers, section 8. Okay, so the power 1 was the power to tax, and that's what I'm talking about right now. I was at letter B, under the power to tax. And then I am just going to briefly skim over things, because we could sit here and spend hours going over each thing, and there's just not time. And so in 1936, when the Supreme Court virtually amended the Constitution by a judicial opinion, this is number 3, they called it the Butler Case. You can Google the Butler Case and read that. That really was very damaging to our Constitution. Under this, there are different clauses as well, but we are just going to really quickly. Under Clause 1, it provides that taxes of various kinds shall be applied uniformly throughout the United States. It is not happening now. It's not happening at all. And the Supreme Court interpreted this to mean geographical uniformity rather than a uniform assessment. So our own Supreme Court, as we know, has gone awry as well. because the Supreme Court has done a lot of damage to the Constitution. And power two was the ability to borrow money. And so a week ago, I'm sure this has changed, I got on my phone and I went to the debt clock. And the debt clock, so this is a week old, but it's right now at 29 trillion, 600 billion, 664,955,434. That's just
$30 trillion.
$30 trillion.
And at Clinton, we had neutral. We had gone down to 0. Wow. Shocking.
That's why they said that when President Obama was in office, he ran up, it was up to, when he left, it was at 14 trillion. So Bush was responsible for a good chunk, but Obama had spent more in his time than every president up to his point. More than every president. So,
All those wars.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, when you think about it, it's mind-boggling. So Congress has power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. And credit is defined as trust in one's integrity in money matters. Woo. And one's ability to fulfill financial obligations. Is this fulfilling financial obligations, this debt clock? Absolutely not. And what's happening is they are printing money, and that creates excessive debt. And number two, unstable currency creates inflation. Have we seen inflation since Biden went in? Oh, yeah.
Can I make one other comment?
Yes.
Because when Venezuela, Venezuela in 20 years ago, their dollar was equal to our dollar. They had a corrupt election, and someone got into power.
Mm-hmm.
He started the same situation where they just create more money. Today, our dollar is the same as 1 million bolivars in 20 years. They collapsed their own financial system. That's what happens when people just start printing and they start adding it to the stock market. The stock market doubles, and home prices go up. But we're at the beginnings of a horrible corruption. It's
Right.
frightening.
We really are. And even just with Biden, I mean, Trump was spending money too, And so we can't say he was blameless. He was spending money, but we were in a lot better situation than we are now. And when he closed down, the gas lines, and
He opened up, he slowed down the regulations so that there could be more economy. So
Right.
more funds were being generated that were actual by a free market economy.
Right.
Not just through printing.
right. And Biden came in and he shut everything down. And now they're back to borrowing money again. Well, and I don't know if they were borrowing under Trump.
Well, they did, as
I think
soon as you
they
had
were.
The COVID, right, they passed a pretty big stimulus bill.
Yeah.
But you really didn't need anything beyond
But
that.
I mean, I'm talking about borrowing money from like China and so forth. I don't think he was doing that.
They had minimized it because.
They
of the
had
market.
minimized it, and like Robin said, was going off the free market, and there were we have jobs available, but nobody wants to work. It's
If you're being paid to stay home.
yeah, and not only that, I think when you stay home and you don't work, you lose that desire. I think it is so much easier to sit around and watch TV and eat and do nothing. And I think we've had a lot of people that's fallen into that trap. It's just easy to sit home and do nothing. But it's not good for our economy. And I think one of the things I worry about, they've brought in over 2 million people at the border now. And I know that my husband's work, a couple of Venezuelans started working in, and then we all got COVID. They're not checking them at the border. And I think that's how we got it, is through these Venezuelans. And I feel sorry for these people. You think of Venezuela, and they said that, people were eating dogs, and anything that they could find to eat. They were literally starving to death. And I would want to come to America. I'm sorry, I get it, but it's not fair to Americans. And then when we pay Americans to stay home, these jobs are going to get filled. We're going to find a place where unemployment goes boom down the road.
Right now, Newsom in California, Governor Newsom has now said that they will pay the health care for any immigrants that come into California. Do you imagine the flood? You get free care. And if your children are going to the hospital to have a baby, right, they're spending $10,000 for a child, where if they come in over the border, all of those things are being paid for. It's just a quick collapse by making promises
Oh, yeah.
for votes. Yeah, to keep
So,
them in power.
Last night I showed a property. As you guys know, I'm a realtor. And it was a mobile home on its own land in West Jordan. And the realtor was a Hispanic fellow, and he opened the door and said something in Spanish. And then we were walking through the house, and he said, and then we want to show you this great big garage. And we went out there, and there's all these space heaters, and there's more families living in there. And then there was a shed, and there was families in the shed, and I'm going, whoa. I'm sure they're not legal, you know. And he kept saying, well, I just let them stay here for a few weeks. I'm going, oh, okay. And there's carpet everywhere and furniture and beds and TV was running in this garage. And I'm like, yeah, they've been here a few weeks. So you can see the sabotage we've got going on in our country. And like Robin said last week, we have pastors and churches and so forth that are getting paid all this money to bring these people in and then divvy them out in our society, and they're getting paid a lot of money from the federal government. And this is so unfair to the American citizens. I mean, it's not right. All right, we power 3 to regulate commerce. We'll just do that one, and then it's long enough as it is. So, how you coming on your stuff? Everybody's done good. All right. Clause number 3, Congress has the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes. So when you think of commerce, what do you envision?
Business.
Yeah. I drive down the freeway and there's these big diesel trucks constantly. I'm like, oh, I wish there was just one lane for those diesel trucks because it's so frustrating. But, you know, can you imagine if that happened? What a mess our highway would be. Okay, so the federal government relied on duties on imports to raise revenue. And we talked about that last week where Trump came in and said, okay, China, we're going to start charging you tariffs to bring your stuff in. And this just incensed, all the Democrats. This is the way it was set up with our founding fathers, is if they brought in goods from England or whatnot, they paid a duty. And we paid a duty to them. And so this is the way it was set up, is to raise revenue to run our government. Our government was never supposed to have 3 million plus employees. Never. It was not. In fact, we know that Congress was supposed to go back for a temporary short period of time to do votes, and the Senate was supposed to come even less to vote on different things, not have all these non-governmental organizations, OSHA, and I can't even think. My head wants to explode when I start to think of
Department of Education.
Department of Education. And then to have these departments, you got to hire people to run them. And before you know it, we've got so many organizations, and we've got millions of people working in D.C. And in fact, we talked about how much a senator made last year. A lot of these employees that work for the federal government make all six-figure incomes. So that's what our tax dollars are doing. It's kind of crazy. All right. So let's see. The interstate commerce was to be able to have a flow of products and goods to be able to cross the state lines. And so one thing we know that the federal government did is they created the interstate highway so that you could cross from state to state and the federal government could be in charge of that. And They also regulated transport back then. You know, you couldn't transport alcohol. That was a no-no. And now drugs are flowing in like crazy. And so anyway, we're really out of time. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Robin.
I just have one comment. The federal government was supposed to regulate like weights and measures.
Yeah, I hadn't got to that one, but yes,
Okay.
you're right. You're fine.
Sorry.
That's
I was
okay.
just thinking, that's your interstate commerce, so that when you buy a pound of potatoes there, it's the same pound of potatoes or a gallon of gas. Like, there's certain things that commerce, in order to be fair, you have to have the proper weights and measures.
You do. That's actually in the I think the next.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Establish rules of naturalization and rules of bankruptcy. You know, we can really quickly establish rules of naturalization. Originally, all the states warmly encouraged naturalization because of the shortage of manpower. And then Dr. Kimball, I remember he talked about how the fairness is of bankruptcy. And, you know, you kind of go, oh, well, that doesn't seem very fair. But when you learn the concept, we read that book, Jonathan Cahn, The Mystery of the Shemitah, and how the Jews, every 7 years, they could release their debt, which is like filing a bankruptcy.
It's every 50 years. The
Yeah.
Every 50 years.
Oh, every 50 years.
50 years is the Jubilee, which is releases debt.
Okay,
And
so
every 7 years.
is this when they allowed them to rest the land and let the
Yes.
people? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I remembered that part. So they would allow them to rest their land, and the poor could come and glean from the fields for an entire year. And then every 50 years, you could have a full release of the debt. Yeah. And that's like bankruptcy. But bankruptcy is every 7 years. And I know people, I knew a realtor lady that her and her husband every 7 years filed bankruptcy. And it's like, that's stealing. You know, it really is. It's not fair to run up your debts and then, you know, I can see if you have medical and so forth and it's overwhelming and your insurance wouldn't cover it and, you know, but to just run up your debts and then file bankruptcy. And I kind of knew this person and that's what they were doing. And it really is unfair. And then they would shelter their stuff so they couldn't come and take it away. And so that's cheating. So, but Dr. Kimber was very much, thought it was very fair to be able to have bankruptcy. But at the time too, you know, the man's going through chemo and had medical bills. And this was before, you know, he had Medicare. So, yeah. So anyway, any other questions? We've run out of time. It's 11:30. So we will finish. Okay, so next week, I'm really excited. I talked to TJ Sorensen. He called me the other day. And he started having dreams and visions. And then all of a sudden, he's kind of like Carrie Guthrie. He says, I've never had any kind of artwork in my life. And all of a sudden, from these dreams, I'm able to create this beautiful artwork. And it's got like messages coded in the pictures. So he's going to come and show us his artwork and show us in the pictures what the different things in his dreams. So I'm very excited. So TJ Sorensen, that'll be next week. And then in 2 weeks from now, Robin and I will be teaching again. Unless you want to take a full 2 hours, we can split it up 50-50, whatever you.
We'll see about that. I'm going to, we've had a conversation about the book, you know, and so I want to do part of it on creation because I've been incredible, the things I'm learning. So I will take maybe the first hour if we can do the creation part.
Okay.
And then the second hour for those of you that have the book and want more interpersonal stuff like.
So you
what
want
does
to take the
that
full
mean?
2 hours?
I
Is
think
that-
maybe,
okay,
is that
all
okay?
right. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and we'll try that. Okay,
Perfect. So,
in 2 weeks.
and Kris, thank you. And Pamela, thank you so much. I can't wait to see what this next book is going to be like. It's exciting.
I can't wait to see it either.
I know.
Kris,
I'm sorry.
how can we get somebody in our area? Do you have a list of somebody who would be close
Yes,
to
there
us?
are, but I'm happy to come down. I mean, there are, you know, that's why I took a packet. So I have to fill whatever. And so if you guys want to you've got husbands, family, kids, grown kids, you've got voters that you know, just have them show up and we can get people to come. I'll come. There's people down here in Utah County.
Okay.
Just reach out to me.
Okay.
But we have to do it soon. This isn't something like, oh, I'll do it in a
You can
couple
drag it out in the
weeks.
next few weeks.
No, we
and,
have
yeah.
to have all these signatures in and turned in by the middle of February.
And what if, like, our husband would sign it? Do you have some online thing or something
There's
like
not,
that?
this can never be online.
Okay,
This
it's all gonna be in
initiative all has to be in person. And like I say, you can reach out to me. My email is Kris, Krisk, at sprintmail, sprintmail.com. And I can come down, or I can send somebody else down, or whatever. But we need, I mean, you can help us. I mean, it's gonna, I mean, already, see, this is 2 hours, me gathering 12 signatures. There's, you know, we've got to have lots of people. And it's easier when we have a group like this than me trying to go door to door, or, you know,
Yeah.
stop someone on the street, because you kind of need to explain it. You need to give full disclosure. I'm all about full disclosure in everything. You know, health, you know, anything that you're signing, and so you want to know, and so most people need to have a little bit of information. It takes time to share that.
Well, yeah, I mean, here, sign here and just, you know,
Right.
just sign here and it's,
Yeah.
you know, you don't need to know, and that's what the Democrats.
Right.
You
Well,
don't need to.
and- Okay, honestly, what they used to do in the olden days, count my vote, I will say that publicly, they would hire people to do their signatures, and they'd say, oh, this will help. You're just signing to put, say, Mitt Romney on the ballot. See, they would lie about what it was. And so that's why we could get people to get their name off the ballot, because once they realized what it was, they were going, well, I don't want to sign up for that. You know, so, but we want to be open and how many of you remember the tax initiative from 2 years ago where we overturned the legislature?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so they passed this horrible tax bill, and we get everybody, back then we had Harmons that kind of jumped on board with us and let us do signatures in the grocery store. But they had very few names that they took off the list, because people had full disclosure, they knew what they were signing. You know, we were able to tell them, this is a bill they just recently passed, it has, you know, it had all the bad stuff in it, right? And there were very few names that they threw out, because that's what they expect to do, is like, you know, but we want people to know up front what this is, you know, of course, and then you don't have names to throw out, because people have full disclosure, so.
Cool. Pam, you were going to say something else.
I did, it was referring to what we discussed. Point out, I just finished reading First Nephi again, and I can't tell you where exactly in the book I found it, but the Lord said that he would preserve this land to the Gentiles so long as they lived in righteousness, but if they departed from that righteousness, he would give this land to another. I think we'd better think seriously about that when we think about the immigration problem that's going on.
Yeah. I agree. You know, do you remember, Kris, when we were, Dr. Kimber would pop in and talk to us, and he said he thought the wall was a bad thing, and we're all kind of going, I don't know. I don't think they're supposed to just come in. If God wants to knock the wall down, he can knock the wall down.
You can't do that. God would never break his own law in order to bring people in. If we have a law, the federal government, that states that we have immigration policies and that's being violated, it's not God that's doing that, because he would be violating his own law.
I
If he did that, he would be unjust, and it says in Alma 41, I think it is, 3 different times in 10 verses, if ever God was to be unjust, he would cease to be God. It is not God that is bringing those people in illegally. You cannot take that argument. It doesn't work.
Give me you're tired and you're poor, but do it legally.
And here's
Yeah,
the deal.
legally.
If you get in the Old Testament, Solomon was commanded to build a temple and build a wall around Jerusalem.
Right.
Why? To protect the city, to protect. And
That's one of the
to
four
protect-
Abrahamic covenants is security.
And he created nations to be sovereign nations. It's not this one world global. And that's what you do when you erase wall. People have walls around their home. principle is true, it will work on the smallest level. So if you put a wall around your home, why do you put a wall around your home?
This,
For protection.
Temple Square, why do you put a wall around it?
Exactly, why do you have, exactly.
well,
If it works at that level,
Yeah.
it'll work at the bigger level.
well, if you remember, Obama wanted to let everybody in, but they say his home in DC has a wall around it.
Right, so he has a wall, right,
Yeah,
exactly,
so
yeah.
it's kind of do as I say, not as I do. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for letting me come down and
Thanks, Kris.